The coffee maker gurgled at 2 in the morning like an old man clearing his throat. And I stood there in my boxers and a wrinkled t-shirt, staring at Eden's work trip receipts scattered across our kitchen counter. Funny how a blessing can sound so much like a curse when it comes wrapped in lies. My name is Cal Harper, and 3 hours ago, my wife told me she was pregnant with another man's child. She called it a blessing. I called it Tuesday night in paradise. The front door clicked open, and Eden's heels tapped against our hardwood floor like Morse code spelling out guilty. She'd been at Monica's place, allegedly, having one of those deep, meaningful conversations that women have over wine and cheese plates, the kind where they solve all the world's problems, except the ones sitting in their own living rooms. Cal, you're still awake? Her voice carried that practiced sweetness she used when she wanted something. Tonight, apparently, she wanted forgiveness. Just making coffee, I said, not turning around. Figured I'd need the caffeine for this conversation. She set her purse down with the careful precision of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. Designer bag, designer clothes, designer lies. Eden had always been good at presentation. It's what made her successful at the marketing agency downtown, knowing exactly how to package garbage to make it look appealing. We need to talk about what I told you earlier. She moved closer, and I caught a whiff of her perfume mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe. Or just the lingering scent of another man's cologne. I turned around, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. About the blessing? Her face flushed. Even at 2 a.m., Eden looked perfect. Auburn hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, makeup still flawless despite her evening out. She'd always been the kind of beautiful that made other women hate her, and other men stupid. Don't say it like that. Like what? Like it's not mine? I kept my voice level, conversational, no shouting, no drama. That wasn't my style, and it definitely wasn't what she expected. Eden thrived on emotion, fed off it like some kind of vampire. Take that away, and she had nothing. Cal, please. I know this is complicated. Complicated. I nodded slowly. That's one word for it. Here's another. Adultery. Or how about betrayal? Deception? I've got a whole thesaurus full of words, Eden. Pick your favorite. Ooh. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking smaller. It just happened. Chase and we were working late on the Morrison account, and things got out of hand. It didn't mean anything. Chase. Finally a name to go with the cologne. Chase Doyle, the gym rat from her office, who looked like he'd stepped out of a protein powder advertisement. All muscles and no brain, which apparently was exactly Eden's type these days. How long? I asked. Cal, how long, Eden? She looked down at her feet. 4 months. 4 months. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks managing construction projects, trying to save up for the house renovation she wanted, she'd been playing house with Ken Dahl from accounting. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been building other people's dreams while mine crumbled. And you want me to raise his child? It's not about whose child it is biologically. It's about us, about our marriage. This baby could be a fresh start. I almost laughed, almost. A fresh start, right. Because nothing says new beginning like raising your wife's lover's offspring. Don't be crude. Crude? Lady, you haven't seen crude yet. I pushed off from the counter, moving past her toward the stairs. I'm going to bed. We'll finish this tomorrow. Where are you going to sleep? I stopped on the bottom step. In my bed, in my house. You know, the one I've been paying for while you've been playing hide the sausage with Captain America. Cal, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake, but I love you. This baby is not my problem. I climbed the stairs without looking back, leaving her standing in the kitchen with her blessing and her lies, but I didn't go to bed. Instead, I sat in my home office, staring at my computer screen, thinking about blessings and curses and the thin line between justice and revenge. Eden thought she had me figured out, thought I'd roll over and play the good husband, swallow my pride, and pretend her bastard child was some kind of gift from above. She was wrong. By morning, Eden Harper was going to learn that blessings come with receipts, and I'd kept every single one. Dawn crept through our bedroom blinds like a burglar, slow and unwelcome. I'd managed maybe 2 hours of sleep, but my mind was sharp as broken glass. Eden lay beside me, curled up in her silk pajamas, looking peaceful as a saint. Amazing how serene people look when they're not awake to feel guilty. I slipped out of bed and padded downstairs to start the coffee. Real coffee this time, not the middle-of-the-night anxiety brew I'd been nursing. The kitchen still smelled like her perfume and my disappointment. My phone buzzed. Text from my brother Ray. How'd it go with Eden? You need backup. Ray worked construction with me, but he used to be a cop before he decided he preferred building things instead of arresting people who tore them down. He had that protective older brother thing down to an art form, which usually annoyed me, but today felt like a lifeline. I typed back. All good. Situation handled. That was optimistic, but Ray didn't need to worry. Not yet. Eden appeared in the doorway wearing her silk robe and an expression that suggested she'd spent the night rehearsing her next performance. Good morning. Morning. I handed her a cup of coffee, black, the way she liked it. No cream, no sugar, no sweetness to soften the bitter taste. Seemed appropriate. Cal, about last night. You mean this morning? It was past midnight when you dropped your little bombshell. Oh. She sat down at our kitchen table, the one we'd bought together 3 years ago when we first moved in. Back when we still did things together. Back when I thought I knew who I'd married. I want to make this work, she said. I know I messed up, but we can get through this. Couples survive affairs all the time. Oh. Do they survive pregnancies too? Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. Still flat, no sign yet of the life growing inside. Chase's life. The thought made my jaw clench. This baby could be good for us. A chance to start over, to build a real family. With another man's child. With our child. Biology doesn't make a family, Cal. Love does. Commitment does. I almost choked on my coffee. Commitment. That's rich, coming from someone who's been sneaking around for 4 months. Oh. I ended it with Chase. Oh. Yesterday, before I told you about the pregnancy. How noble of you. Really, I'm touched by your sense of timing. Eden's perfect composure cracked just a little. Don't be sarcastic. I'm trying to fix this. No, you're trying to manage this. There's a difference. I set down my coffee cup and looked at her directly. You want to know what I think about your blessing? She nodded, probably expecting tears or shouting or some kind of emotional breakdown she could work with. I think you should pack a bag. Oh. The color drained from her face. Cal, no. Don't do this. Don't throw away 5 years of marriage over one mistake. One mistake that lasted 4 months and is going to last 18 years. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I stood up, rinsed my coffee cup in the sink. I'm going to work. When I get home tonight, I'd prefer if you weren't here. You can't just kick me out. This is my house too. Actually, it's not. Check the deed. My name, my down payment, my mortgage. You're welcome to take whatever you brought to the marriage. But the house stays with me. That wasn't entirely true. Maine was a community property state, and she'd have rights to half of everything. But Eden didn't know that, and I was betting her knowledge of divorce law was about as solid as her commitment to our wedding vows. Cal, please, I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the steady paycheck, the nice house, the respectable husband who doesn't ask too many questions. But you don't love me enough to keep your legs closed when pretty boy Chase starts paying attention. She flinched like I'd slapped her. That's cruel. That's honest. There's a difference, though I understand why you might not recognize it. I grabbed my work jacket from the hook by the door and headed for the garage. Behind me, I could hear Eden starting to cry. Big, dramatic sobs that might have moved me 6 months ago. Today they just sounded like background noise. My truck started on the second try, which was better than my marriage had done. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw Mrs. Crandall peeking through her kitchen curtains. The old woman had lived next door for 20 years and knew everyone's business better than they knew it themselves. By noon, half the neighborhood would know Eden and I were having problems. Good, let them talk. In a town like ours, reputation mattered, and Eden's was about to take a nosedive. I drove toward the construction site where my crew was working on a new office building, but my mind wasn't on work. It was on Eden's face when I'd told her to pack. Shocked, hurt, desperate. She'd expected forgiveness, maybe even gratitude for her honesty. She'd gotten neither. My phone rang. Eden's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message at the next red light. Cal, please don't do this. I know you're angry, but we can work through this. The baby doesn't have to change anything between us. Please call me back. I love you. I deleted the message and drove on. Eden was right about one thing. The baby didn't have to change anything between us. It already had. After 8 hours of pretending to focus on construction schedules and building permits, I needed a drink and some perspective. The Salty Hammer sat on the edge of downtown, the kind of bar where working people went to forget their troubles and gossip about everyone else's. Janelle worked the evening shift, a 40-something woman with platinum hair and sharp eyes who knew every secret in town. She'd been tending bar here for 15 years, which made her part therapist, part confessor, and part intelligence agency. "Cal Harper," she said as I walked in. "You look like someone who needs whiskey and sympathy, probably in that order." "Just whiskey, hold the sympathy." She poured 2 fingers of bourbon and slid it across the scarred wooden bar. "Rough day. Rough life." I took a sip, felt the burn, welcomed it. "Janelle, what do you know about Chase Doyle?" Her eyebrows went up. "Eden's co-worker, the one who looks like he bench presses small cars?" "That's the one." "Well, well." She leaned against the bar, clearly intrigued. "What's Pretty Boy done now?" "Let's just say he's been very helpful with my wife's career development." Janelle's expression shifted from curious to sympathetic. "Ah, honey, I'm sorry." "Don't be. I'm not looking for pity. I'm looking for information." "What kind of information?" "The useful kind." She studied my face for a moment, then nodded. "Chase comes in here sometimes, usually with different women, never the same one twice. Talks loud, tips poorly, thinks he's God's gift to the female population. Married, divorced. His ex-wife Rachel cleaned him out pretty good about 2 years ago. Caught him cheating with some college girl." "Interesting." Chase had a pattern, and Eden was just the latest in a long line of conquests. Somehow that made it worse and better at the same time. "He mentioned Eden?" "Not by name, but about 3 months ago he started bragging about some married woman he was seeing. Said she was high maintenance but worth it. Made me want to throw a bottle at his head." 3 months. Close enough to Eden's timeline to make me want to punch something. "Where's he live?" "Cal, whatever you're thinking." "I'm not thinking anything violent. I just want to have a conversation." Janelle looked skeptical, but she pulled out her phone and scrolled through something. "He's got an apartment over on Maple Street, the fancy complex with the pool and the pretentious name. Willowbrook Gardens? That's the one. Unit 3B. I finished my whiskey and left a 20 on the bar." "Thanks, Janelle." "Cal, be careful. Men like Chase, they don't fight fair. Neither do I." The drive to Willowbrook Gardens took 10 minutes through the quiet streets of our small town. The apartment complex was one of those modern developments that tried too hard to look upscale, all glass and steel and landscaping, that required a full-time maintenance crew. Chase's BMW was parked in spot 3B, right next to a motorcycle that probably cost more than most people made in 6 months. Everything about the setup screamed single guy with disposable income and no sense of responsibility. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, watching the building, thinking about what I wanted to accomplish. Confronting Chase directly would be satisfying, but ultimately pointless. He'd just deny everything or try to justify it, and I'd end up wanting to rearrange his face. Better to be smart about this. Better to be patient. My phone buzzed. Another text from Eden. "Please come home. We need to talk." I turned off the phone and drove home, taking the long way through downtown. Past the movie theater, where Eden and I had our first date, past the restaurant where I'd proposed, past all the places that used to mean something before she decided our marriage was negotiable. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. Eden's car was gone, which meant she'd either taken my advice and left or gone to Monica's to strategize her next move. I was betting on the latter. Inside, I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Cal, I'm staying at Monica's tonight. Please don't do anything rash. We can fix this. I love you. Eden." I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash. Then I went upstairs, opened Eden's closet, and started packing her clothes into garbage bags. If she wanted to stay at Monica's, she could do it permanently. It took 3 trips to load everything into my truck. Clothes, shoes, makeup, jewelry, all the expensive things she'd accumulated during our marriage. I drove across town to Monica's apartment and left the bags on her doorstep with another note. "Your blessing has been delivered." By the time I got home, it was past midnight. The house felt different without Eden's things in it, emptier but somehow cleaner. I poured myself another whiskey and sat in my living room, thinking about blessings and curses and the difference between justice and revenge. Tomorrow, I'd start making some calls. Ray knew people, and people knew things. In a town this size, secrets didn't stay secret for long, especially when someone was motivated to uncover them. Eden thought she could manage this situation, control the narrative, make me the bad guy who couldn't forgive and forget. She thought I'd roll over and accept her blessing like a good little husband. She was about to learn how wrong she could be. Ray showed up at my house the next morning with coffee and donuts, which meant he'd talked to Janelle and knew the whole story. My brother had always been able to read situations like a book, which made him a good cop and an even better friend. "So," he said, settling into my kitchen chair with his coffee, "Eden's pregnant with another man's child, and you kicked her out." That's the short version. And the long version? The long version involves me making sure everyone in town knows exactly what kind of person they're dealing with. Ray studied my face. "Cal, I get that you're angry. I'm not angry. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic. This is something else entirely. What would you call it? Motivated." He laughed despite himself. "Okay, I'll bite. What's the plan?" I pulled out a manila folder I'd been working on since dawn. Inside were printed emails, text messages, credit card statements, and phone records, everything I'd been able to access through our joint accounts and shared devices. "Eden's been sloppy," I said, spreading the papers across the table. "Look at this." Ray leaned forward, scanning the documents. Hotel charges on nights she said she was working late. Restaurant bills for two when she claimed to be at book club. Text messages to Chase that are definitely not work-related. And this is just what I found in 2 hours. Imagine what I could find with more time. Cal, what are you planning to do with all this?" "Share it. With the right people, at the right time, in the right way." "That sounds like revenge." "That sounds like truth. There's a difference." Ray sat back in his chair. "You know I'll help you, right? Whatever you need." "I was hoping you'd say that." We spent the next hour going through everything I'd collected, organizing it chronologically, building a timeline of Eden's affair. The evidence was damning. 4 months of lies, deception, and betrayal, all documented in her own words and actions. "This is pretty comprehensive," Ray said. "But what's your endgame? You want to embarrass her, ruin her reputation, make her pay?" "I want her to understand that actions have consequences. Eden spent her whole life charming her way out of trouble, using her looks and her personality to make people forget her mistakes. Not this time. And Chase? Chase is collateral damage. But he knew she was married, knew what he was doing. He doesn't get a pass." My phone rang. Monica's number flashed on the screen. "Let me guess," I said, answering. "Eden wants to talk." "Cal, thank God. Listen, Eden is beside herself. She's been crying all night. She's not eating. She's making herself sick over this." "That's unfortunate." "Don't be cruel. She made a mistake, but she loves you. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her?" "Monica, let me ask you something. If your husband got another woman pregnant, would you forgive him?" Silence on the other end. "I didn't think so. Tell Eden that if she wants to talk, she can call me herself. But I'm not interested in communicating through intermediaries." I hung up and looked at Ray. Monica's playing messenger. Eden's building her support network, getting her friends on her side, probably spinning the story to make you look unreasonable. Let her. I've got a better network. That afternoon, I made my rounds. First stop was Mrs. Crandall, my elderly neighbor who knew everyone's business and wasn't shy about sharing it. I found her in her garden, tending to her roses with the dedication of a surgeon. "Cal, dear," she said, looking up from her flowers. "I heard Eden moved out. I hope everything's all right." "Everything's fine, Mrs. Crandall. Just some temporary difficulties." "Well, if you need anything, you just let me know. I've always thought you were too good for that girl anyway." "Interesting. I'd always assumed Mrs. Crandall liked Eden." "Really? Why's that?" "Oh, just little things. The way she talked to you sometimes, like you were beneath her, and all those late nights at work. What kind of job requires that much overtime?" Mrs. Crandall was sharper than I'd given her credit for. "You notice that?" "Honey, I've been watching this neighborhood for 20 years. I notice everything, like that young man who's been picking her up sometimes when you're at work. Drives a fancy car, thinks he's quite the catch. You've seen Chase? Is that his name? Handsome boy, but there's something slimy about him. Reminds me of a used car salesman." I spent another 10 minutes with Mrs. Crandall, learning that she'd seen Chase and Eden together at least a dozen times over the past few months. Always when I was at work, always when they thought no one was watching. But someone was always watching in a town like ours. Next stop was the Salty Hammer, where Janelle was setting up for the evening shift. "Back so soon?" she asked. "I need another favor." "What kind of favor?" "The kind where you mention to your customers that Eden Harper is pregnant with Chase Doyle's child." Janelle's eyes widened. "Cal, that's true. and in about a week, everyone's going to know anyway. I'm just accelerating the timeline. You sure about this? Once that cat's out of the bag, there's no putting it back. I'm sure. She nodded slowly. All right, but I never heard it from you. Of course not. By the time I got home, my phone had 3 missed calls from Eden and 2 from Monica. I ignored them all and spent the evening organizing my evidence into neat piles, making copies, preparing for the next phase of my campaign. Eden thought she could control this situation, manage the fallout, keep her reputation intact, while asking me to raise another man's child. She was about to learn that some blessings come with a very high price. The gossip network in our town worked faster than the internet. By Thursday morning, I was getting looks at the hardware store, sympathetic nods at the coffee shop, and knowing glances from half the people I passed on the street. Eden called me 6 times before noon. Cal, we need to talk. People are saying things, horrible things, and I don't know where they're getting their information. What kind of things? You know what kind of things. About me and Chase, about the baby. Someone's spreading rumors, and I think I know who. Enlighten me. It's you, isn't it? You're trying to destroy my reputation because you can't handle the truth. I was standing in my kitchen, looking out the window at Mrs. Crandall's garden. She was out there with her watering can, probably listening to every word of this conversation. Eden, I haven't told anyone anything that isn't true. You promised you wouldn't tell anyone about the pregnancy. No, I didn't. You assumed I wouldn't, which was your first mistake. Cal, please. My boss is asking questions. My mother called this morning crying. Monica says people are looking at her funny because she's my friend. Sounds like consequences. This isn't fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you keeping your wedding vows. Fair would have been you thinking about our marriage before you jumped into bed with Chase. Fair would have been you considering my feelings before you decided to get pregnant with another man's child. It's not like I planned this, but you planned the affair. 4 months, Eden. 4 months of lying to my face, sneaking around behind my back, making me look like an idiot in front of the whole town. Nobody knew. Everybody knew. Mrs. Crandall saw Chase picking you up. Janelle heard him bragging about his married girlfriend. The only person who didn't know was me, and that was intentional. Silence on the other end of the line. I want to come home, she said finally. This isn't your home anymore. Cal, I'm pregnant. I need stability, support. I can't keep staying at Monica's. That sounds like a problem for you and Chase to solve together. Chase won't return my calls. Of course he wouldn't. Chase was the kind of guy who was all charm and confidence until things got complicated. Now that his affair was public knowledge, he'd probably moved on to his next conquest. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to start a family with him. Please, Cal, I'm begging you. Just let me come home, and we can work this out privately. There's nothing to work out. You made your choice when you chose him over me. Now you get to live with it. I hung up and immediately got another call, this one from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Cal Harper? Yes, this is Rachel Doyle. I think we need to talk. Rachel Doyle, Chase's ex-wife, the one who'd cleaned him out in their divorce. This was an interesting development. What about? About my ex-husband and your wife. I have some information you might find useful. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop across town, away from the usual gossip network. Rachel turned out to be a small, dark-haired woman with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She looked like someone who'd learned the hard way not to trust charming men. I heard about your situation, she said, settling into the booth across from me. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm handling it. I'm sure you are. But I thought you should know. This isn't Chase's first married woman. I figured as much. He has a pattern. Finds women who are unhappy in their marriages, makes them feel special, gets them emotionally dependent on him. Then when things get complicated, he disappears. Is that what happened with you? I was the wife he cheated on, not the other woman. But I've been keeping track of his activities since our divorce. Call it professional interest. What kind of professional interest? I'm a private investigator now, specializing in cheating spouses, ironically enough. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. This is everything I have on Chase's activities over the past year. Names, dates, photographs, hotel receipts. Your wife isn't the only married woman he's been seeing. I opened the envelope and found myself looking at surveillance photos of Chase with at least 3 different women, all taken at various hotels and restaurants around town. He's been busy. Chase collects married women like some people collect stamps, and he's very good at making them think they're special, that what they have is real. Why are you telling me this? Because I know what it's like to be betrayed by someone you trusted. And because Chase needs to face some consequences for once in his life. I studied the photographs, recognizing one of the women as the wife of a local business owner, another as a teacher from the elementary school. What do you want in return for this information? Nothing. Consider it a public service. We talked for another hour, with Rachel filling in details about Chase's methods, his habits, his weaknesses. By the time I left the coffee shop, I had enough ammunition to destroy both Chase and Eden's reputations permanently. But I also had something else, a plan that would give them exactly what they deserved. That evening, I called Eden back. "I've been thinking about what you said," I told her, "about coming home, working things out." "Really?" The hope in her voice was almost pathetic. "Really? But there are conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "Meet me tomorrow night at the Salty Hammer, 8 o'clock. Come alone." "Cal, I don't think a bar is the right place to discuss our marriage." "It's the perfect place. Public, neutral territory. Unless you're afraid of what people might think." "Of course not." "Good. And Eden, bring Chase." "What? Why?" "Because this conversation involves all three of us. If we're going to work this out, everyone needs to be honest about what happened. Chase won't come. Then I guess we don't have anything to talk about." I hung up and smiled for the first time in days. Tomorrow night, Eden and Chase were going to get their blessing, delivered exactly the way they deserved it, in front of the entire town. The Salty Hammer was packed on Friday night, which was exactly what I'd been counting on. Word had gotten around that something was going down, and in a town our size, that was better than cable television for entertainment value. I arrived at 7:30 and took a seat at the bar where I could see the entire room. Janelle poured me a whiskey without being asked. "You sure about this, Cal?" "Never been more sure of anything in my life." Ray sat 2 stools down, nursing a beer and pretending to watch the baseball game on the television above the bar. Mrs. Crandall was at a corner table with her bridge club, all of them trying to look casual while clearly waiting for the show to start. Eden walked in at 5 minutes past 8, looking nervous and overdressed in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than most people's car payments. She'd gone for the sympathy look, vulnerable, beautiful, slightly fragile. It might have worked on me 6 months ago. Chase followed her in, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. He dressed down in jeans and a polo shirt, probably hoping to blend into the crowd. Fat chance of that in a room full of people who already knew exactly who he was and what he'd done. They found a table in the middle of the room, which put them right where everyone could see and hear everything that was about to happen. I finished my whiskey, picked up the manila envelope Rachel had given me, and walked over to their table. "Eden, Chase." I pulled out a chair and sat down without being invited. "Thanks for coming." "Cal, I'm so glad you called," Eden said. "I've been thinking about what you said, about working things out, and I really believe we can get past this." "I'm sure you do." Chase looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. "Listen, Cal, I want you to know that what happened between Eden and me, it wasn't planned. We never meant for it to go as far as it did." "How far did you mean for it to go?" "What?" "I'm curious about your intentions, Chase. When you started pursuing my wife, what exactly were you hoping to accomplish?" "It wasn't like that. We were working together, spending a lot of time on projects, and things just developed naturally." "Naturally?" I nodded. "The way things developed naturally with Jennifer Morrison, or Susan Walsh, or Lisa Chen." The color drained from Chase's face. Eden looked confused. "Who are Jennifer Morrison and Susan Walsh?" she asked. I opened the manila envelope and spread Rachel's photographs across the table. "They're Chase's other girlfriends, the ones he was seeing while he was seeing you." Eden stared at the photos, her face going through a range of emotions: confusion, realization, hurt, anger. "Chase? What is this?" "Eden, I can explain. You were seeing other women while you were with me? It's not what it looks like." I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the show. Around us, the bar had gone quiet, everyone straining to hear the conversation. "Actually, it's exactly what it looks like," I said. "Chase here has a hobby. He collects married women, makes them feel special, gets them to cheat on their husbands. You're not his first, Eden. You're just his most recent." "That's not true," Chase said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Which part? The part where you told Jennifer Morrison that she was the love of your life? Or the part where you promised Susan Walsh you'd leave town with her? Or maybe the part where you got Lisa Chen pregnant and then disappeared when she told her husband?" Eden's hand went to her stomach. "Lisa Chen is pregnant too?" "Was pregnant. She lost the baby when the stress of her divorce got to be too much. The silence in the bar was complete now. Even the bartender had stopped washing glasses. Eden, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the room. You asked me to accept your blessing, to raise Chase's child as my own, to pretend that your 4-month affair was just a mistake we could get past. But here's the thing about blessings. They're supposed to come from a place of love, not deception. And what you two had wasn't love. It was just another conquest for Chase and a midlife crisis for you. I stood up, leaving the photographs on the table for everyone to see. So here's my blessing for both of you. Chase, you get to be a father. Congratulations. I hope you're better at that than you are at being faithful. Cal, wait, and Eden, you get to be a single mother. You wanted independence. You wanted excitement. You wanted to feel desired by someone new. Well, now you're free to enjoy all of that without the burden of a boring, reliable husband holding you back. I turned to address the room, my voice carrying to every corner of the bar. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet the happy couple, Chase Doyle and Eden Harper, expecting their first child together. Please join me in wishing them all the happiness they deserve. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Whispers, gasps, a few scattered laughs from people who'd never liked Eden anyway. Mrs. Crandall was shaking her head sadly. Monica, who'd been sitting at a back table, looked mortified. Chase tried to stand up, probably planning to leave, but I put my hand on his shoulder. Sit down, Chase. We're not finished yet. I don't have to listen to this. Actually, you do, because tomorrow morning, copies of these photographs are going to every business owner in town, every school administrator, every church leader, and every gossip columnist in the county. Your reputation, such as it was, is finished. You can't do that. I already did. The emails went out an hour ago. Eden was crying now, big tears rolling down her perfect cheeks. Cal, please, don't do this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm just making sure everyone knows the truth about what kind of people you really are. I picked up the photographs and put them back in the envelope. Enjoy your blessing, Eden. You've earned it. I walked back to the bar, left money for my drink, and headed for the door. Behind me, I could hear Eden sobbing and Chase trying to explain himself to a room full of people who'd already made up their minds about both of them. Ray caught up with me in the parking lot. That was brutal, he said. That was justice. You feel better? I thought about it for a moment, standing there in the cool evening air, listening to the muffled sounds of conversation from inside the bar. Yeah, I said. I really do. Eden had wanted me to accept her blessing, to embrace the gift of raising another man's child, while pretending her betrayal was just a minor mistake. Instead, I'd given her a blessing of her own. The truth, delivered exactly when and where it would do the most good. Some blessings, I'd learned, are worth waiting for. Lom Ning Famd, The Vargin, Dini, November 7th, 2025, 12 hours, 54 minutes, and 38 seconds.